sorry for my little oh Lord, you pandemic, honey. She's running. Pandemic.
Yes, I feel that.
Papa, can you hear me?
Hi, Eureka. How's it going?
Hi, Taylor. I'm good. How are you, beautiful?
Good. How do you? Oh, my name's at the bottom. I was like, how does she know?
I'm slick, bitch. I did my research.
How are you holding up in NYC? Yes.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just quarantining with my partner and yeah, just I'm really doing the quarantine thing.
So we're here is basically about like spreading the joy and power of drag and going to these small towns and maybe towns that haven't seen it before, have seen it on these smaller scales, and really uplifting that community. Can you just talk generally about what that experience has been like for all three of you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just been really uplifting to my spirit. I've mentioned a few times, like when we had our premiere with like all of our cast and things like that, like doing the show kind of just reminded me like what I love drag so much for, you know what I'm saying? And why I started drag, and the power that it gave me as far as like believing in myself. So to be able to like help these other people believe in themselves, like I was so lucky to work with like Christopher, who was, torn by society telling him that he had to be a certain way. And he also had body positivity issues and, issues with his family, like feeling like he wasn't there, like he could have been, so on and so forth. I relate with that so much. So it's like, it's just been an incredible experience to like, not only help these other people but we also get helped in the journey as well, because like we're reminded of things that have triggered us in our past or that we've been through, but also like things that I still have to figure out every day. I tell myself every day affirmations in the mirror just to kind of get through what we're going through right now, just to like stay in a positive place, so it's really important to me.
Yeah. How about you, Shangela?
Well, with regard to this show, I was so thrilled to be able to be a part of it, because when the creators, Johnnie, Ingram, and Steve Warren, came to us with the idea, it was like small towns, drag. I get to work with Bob and Eureka, and we get to also produce a one night only drag show in these conservative spaces that have typically never had them before. So that really resonated big to me, because I kept thinking, wow, if I would have had this when I was growing up in my small town, what an impact it would have had on me. So that was a really cool point, and that's why I'm so thankful to be in this project right now.
Mm-hmm. And Bobby, too, I know you're in the New York City queen, but you're from the South as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi.
Mm. Great combination. Yeah, I'm from Texas, so I know
the South.
Yeah, the South. How about you? What was that like, just being a part of the show, spreading the power of drag to communities, maybe like the one that you grew up in? Mm-hmm.
Well, I talk about the fact that I love the phrase representation matters. Years ago, I saw BB's O'Hara on TV, and it really changed my life. Seeing someone on RuPaul's Drag Race being celebrated for everything that I had been told was bad about me. Like, she's Black, she's queer, she's femme, like, she's a drag queen, and people on TV were like giving her accolades, telling her she was gorgeous, telling her she was brilliant, and then they gave her a crown, they gave her money, and then she got to travel around. And I saw that and I said, wow, if this person can be celebrated for all the things that I've been told were bad about me. Amelia Blake on the Twin Falls episode said, everything about me has been used against me at one point in my life. And it really resonated with me, because there was a moment where I felt that way. But then by finding the drag community, I found a way to have everything that was ever used against me to be a benefit to me. Everything that was a detriment had become an attribute. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just happy to be able to be someone's representation when they turn on the TV.
Yeah. Well, how did you get these three queens involved specifically, like Bob and Shangela and Eureka? How did they get involved?
Well, we knew from the start, we've been fans of Drag Race for years, and that we needed, when Johnnie and I conceived of the idea, we knew we needed three people with unique talents. One, that they needed to be performers of the highest degree possible. Number two, they needed to have an intellect that would be able to be, at such a level that they could navigate the world and what we were doing in a way that would be seamless. And then three, we needed to find people that were empathetic, because without empathy, the show wouldn't work. And that, I think that is the beauty of the show, that there's so much of a level of connection that each of these queens is able to go to the town, be matched with their drag daughter, and then find their stories and find the loves that they have in their lives. And there truly is an enormous bond that develops. So for Johnnie and I, we thought about who could possibly be these people, and that we never even thought of anyone else other than these three. And that it was just in our mind, it was our intuition, it was our gut telling us these three had the qualities that we needed, and thankfully we were right.
And each of them being from small towns and the ability to relate to other people from small towns is incredibly important. You know, going in not being overly judgmental, and listening. And as you've noticed, a lot of the storytelling in this show is about the locals and the people and getting to know the town, and less about sort of being judgmental and overtly sort of forcing sort of our culture within the town, but more trying to sort of listen and hear the stories of these communities and then share that story in sort of a performance drag arts on stage in the most beautiful, epic way.
So in episode 1, when y'all are leaving a store, I believe, and a patron angrily tells the employees that he won't be returning because of those quote unquote freaks. And then episode 3, someone calls the cops on y'all. I think you're just walking down the street or like at the storefront of a store. I mean, what were those moments like in that moment? Was that scary? Was that kind of, what were those? I'll let y'all talk.
I'm going to jump in. Yeah. In that man's defense, Eureka is a freak.
Now, Mama, don't get crazy. My shoulder pad crustacean fantasy was everything. Okay.
Not the freak he was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can be a freak. No. I always felt safe in those situations because, I mean, we had the luxury of a full production team. You know what I mean?
It felt like a sobering reality to me because, you know, we're accustomed at this point in our careers because of being a part of RuPaul's Drag Race and being able to tour and travel the world. We get celebrated so much by fans and different people that we meet, that going into these spaces, into these conservative towns, was like truly a sobering reality. It brought us back to the experience of what it's like for a lot of LGBTQ people on a daily basis who haven't been on television or who don't live in spaces where, you know, drag is something that is more normalized, right, as a part of society. So it was really, it was a shock, but it was also a reminder that we still have a lot of work to do with regard to pushing ourselves farther on the spectrum of acceptance.
We felt, I mean, my personally, I did feel protected because we had a lot of people with us and I have them with me, obviously. You know, there were times where I definitely felt like on display, but I think that like, even though there might've been moments where I was like, okay, I felt a little vulnerable, you know, I had to fight through it and push through it because we came to these towns as a representation of what it's like to be confident and to own yourself and to be true to like, and use the art of drag to push that confidence through. And honestly, those moments that we were in drag, I definitely felt safe because I always feel like a little extra powerful as Eureka.
Yeah.
And then the moment that we met the young lady in Branson, Missouri, whom wouldn't let us come in, and she, you know, I got on the phone with the owner. In that moment, I probably felt the most uneasy just because we weren't really coming in drag, and that was the first time we had really gotten a negative response like out of drag, and it was more of like, I guess, a personal attack on like us just as like queer people coming in here. But we also had cameras and things like that. So I mean, I guess I understood in a way, but that was the only time I felt like a little uneasy about it. But Bob made me giggle in the moment because Bob was just like, give this poor lady her phone back and let's get the hell out of here.
God bless.
It's challenging as a lot of conflict not many people are willing to do in front of the camera.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of the tension and through story and through whispers or through online blogs. Like a lot of people are willing to come forward and sort of express their disapproval of the LGBTQ community. These specific incidents we didn't want to shine a ton of light on because it's really not the point of the show isn't to show there's a lot of negativity out there, but it's about there's establishing, yes, this, there's conflict here and it does exist, but we're going to just move past it. And I think that's kind of how we've done in the show. It establishes that these towns have, they are characters in their own way, and each town, is struggling with their own sort of being stuck between progressive and conservative, and a lot of the locals, have a very specific point of view on that, and in Gettysburg and in Branson, I would say those two places maybe we saw a little bit more of that tension than we would have seen in some of the other towns. Some people tend to tuck away their point of views and don't really want to express it outwardly, and in these two places we managed to capture some outward expression, to say the least. But most importantly, I think it's about, the show is about putting that aside and talking it out, and a lot of conversations that haven't been had for a long time in these towns, people are finally talking about them, because when you bring big pride parade, glam, drag show to town, people are going to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they were powerful moments because, I mean, it's realistic. It's what is really happening there. And it also, I think, points to...
More so, though, was there's the outward hostility that we showed in a number of, instances. But really what we would find would wind up being the turning our heads, like, we don't want to see this, or inviting somebody. Like, I'd go to the barber. I'd invite the barber to the show. Oh no, I couldn't go to that. Why wouldn't you go to that? Oh, I just couldn't. It's that over and over and over and over. Or sometimes we'll find somebody, an artist in the town that's doing something for the show, that's creating something for the show, and we said, oh my God, you got to come see how your art's going to be used. Oh, I'm going shopping with my wife at the the outlet malls that day. It's like,
well, it's a step. Sometimes at least someone's disapproval of your lifestyle isn't necessarily what I really personally care about, whether who approves of my lifestyle. But at the same time, it is a step in the right direction towards talking about it, when something you wouldn't normally talk about. So even though it's not that person we haven't sort of won their hearts over, we are engaging and showing a face and being present and being visible, and I think it's really important.
And I think it points to the resilience of the community, the queer community, the LGBTQ community there as well, because it's, dealing with that kind of stuff when you're growing up, it's hard to go to a drag show. It's hard to have that courage to take those first steps. And I think that really showcases that it's not just a utopian kind of, we're all doing drag. Like, it can still be a struggle for a lot of people, and it still is.
This is a real life series.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the beautiful part about this is that this is a slice of life of what many people deal with on a daily basis. In this show, you have great moments of joy. You have, we go through this experience with our drag daughters. We get to meet them. We bond with them. We bring in our design teams. We produce a drag show. We have fun. But also in life, in real life, there are moments of challenge. There are moments of discrimination. There are moments of hatred. There are obstacles that you have to overcome. And that's what this show is all about, showcasing and highlighting real stories from these small conservative spaces across America.
So now a little bit lighter questions. What was the first time that y'all were inspired by drag? I know Bobby spoke about BB. Was there some time before that, I'm guessing?
Yeah, that was my first time seeing drag. I mean,
yeah.
I have a queer uncle who had a copy of Tu Wong Fu on VHS. And whenever we would go to his house, everyone would be in the living room, and I would be back in his room on the waterbed watching Tu Wong Fu. I would always invite people to watch it with me, but no one wanted to watch it as many times as I did. And I just couldn't stop watching this movie. I saw Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo, but I also saw RuPaul coming down from the ceiling, who was like, I think this is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life, wearing a Confederate flag dress. Her name was Rachel Tensions. And that's never not had an impact on me. Like, I was just like, this is it. That was my first time ever being affected. And for whatever reason, my very young self was like, I must keep watching this film over and over again.
That's so funny. I watched that for the first time, like over Christmas break, and I am obsessed.
For the first time.
I'm leaving this call. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, leave the
Girl,
group.
leave the
meeting.
meeting.
Stop.
Leave
When I
meeting
watched it,
wherever
I've been educated. I'm sorry.
How do I click close meeting for all?
I love it now. I'm sorry. Eureka, how about you? What was your first moment that you felt inspired by drag that you remember?
I mean, honestly, the first time I feel like I was exposed to drag was on the show Maury, the daytime shows Maury.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whenever it was like, is it a man or a woman kind of thing, or like my husband's in love with a drag queen. Like those were my favorite episodes. Like I was obsessed with this show, right? And because of those episodes, anytime it was coming on, I would be like prepped, ready. My snacks would be laid out. Nobody could talk, you know. And it's not even that it was a serious show. It was just like there was something about it that was exciting to me. It was the first time I ever saw Dina Cass, actually. She was on Maury, and she's a pageant queen known in the drag circuit. She's won just about every title there is. Where I'm from, it's very pageant related. So that was like the first time I was exposed. But I was inspired by drag when I first came out to the gay bar with a fake ID, I have to say, when I was like 16. And I saw who's my drag mother now, Jacqueline St. James. She was just a big plus size trans woman with a huge 90s ponytail with just the most costume on, and just came out on stage and let the kids have it. And just the kids roared for this like big, beautiful woman. And I lost my mind. And it was like, and I just felt powerful seeing her, you know what I'm saying? Cause I've always been big, and it made me just feel comfortable and sassy and sexy. And next thing you know, honey, I was in there trying to pretend like my real hair wasn't a wig. And like my sister's clothes on with like some eyeliner twerking on the dance floor, you know? So it really inspired me just to kind of come out and have fun.
I love that so much. How about you, Shangela?
Oh my gosh, my first touch point really to drag was I found a CD that my mom had of Supermodel of the World. It was RuPaul's CD where she's on the cover, you know, she has the gold hair thing. And I remember listening to this music and just really dancing around the house with the towel wrapped on my head, you know, that kind of gig. But I think my first real moment with in-person drag was when I was 18. I graduated high school, went to college, and I was in Dallas, my first time to the big city, right? So I was able to go to the neighborhood. And I remember being down there, and one of my friends was in the amateur show. It's O'Hara Davenport, who was also on season 2 of Drag Race. God bless her. And she took me to the dressing room with her. And I remember just being my first time in a drag dressing room with queens, you know, everyone getting ready for the show, queens not just changing, and me being like, you know, little, just come out the closet gay boy from Paris, Texas, like, oh my gosh, you know, all that going on in the back. But everyone just was so comfortable being exactly who they were and being in their skin. I was soaking everything in, like listening to how they talked and how they interacted and everything. It was something that really influenced me, even as a little spark, to start owning more of who I was.
I have to give props to RuPaul, obviously. It's growing up, that was my very first knowledge of drag culture. As I was a young teenager, you know, sort of figuring my own sexuality out. It was just so great to see someone on television and expressing themselves and their individuality so beautifully. I also worked, once I left home, I moved to Chicago to go to school. I worked in drag bars all throughout my college days to not only help me pay for my school, but it was so much fun. And I really got to meet a lot of really unique personalities, but performers, and really sort of understand the artistry of drag and its you know, sort of smaller stage form, which is, you know, a lot of, you know, talented individuals with not only you know, concepting their looks, but sewing them and putting them together, and then, you know, performing and you know, pivoting and performing just like endlessly, like number after number after number. It's just sort of like, this is hard work. And it was really, really nice to see, though, the loving side of the community and really, you know, be able to use that, you know, later in life. Who knew that you were going to be able to use that to tell even more stories? And it's just a really great experience. And now I have to say that I feel like we have the best job in the world, which is working, with these amazing, talented humans.
Let's talk about the final episodes. The season finale of season 1 is coming next week. Can you tease that a little bit? I know the pandemic affected the production of the show, so what can you tell us about it?
I mean, to quote Jasmine Masters, coronavirus done fucked up drag. we had to completely restructure our whole fantasy. And I mean, quite frankly, we filmed the major portion of the episode from, our homes.
Wow.
I was really nervous at first. I mean, I know that we had gone to our 6th city and started meeting our drag daughters, and we were ready to deliver another great episode, as we've been really trying to we had gotten into a rhythm with this show about how to do it and hopefully deliver the best project. And when, it came down, the word for everyone's safety really was for us to stop production. And I think that was a great choice, but it also made me like, oh no, how are we going to get, finish this out? We were just getting into this beautiful rhythm. And I know that there were so many great stories that we were telling. We want to continue telling those. And so when we had to pivot, and you'll see coming up on our season finale, on Thursday, June the 4th, it's going to be something I think that's very unique. I was nervous at first because I was like, how are we going to still deliver the same impact, that we've had with the other episodes? How are we going to deliver that same thing? But when they said they were going to focus the stories on our journey, it was something, I thought that was something special, because it kind of gives our audiences a greater look into our lives and why, we are a fit for this project, why we're able to walk into these spaces, into these towns, based on where we're from and what we've gone through in our journey, and now able to take on these daughters and drag sons and take them on a journey of their own.
Eureka, do you have anything to add?
I mean, yeah, piggybacking off of what Shangela just ended with, I think that there's been a lot of questions. Like, well, anytime I'm interviewed, they constantly ask, like, well, what makes you feel like you were able to do this, or why do you feel like you're good at this? And I think that this last episode is going to help express and show that to the fans, why the three of us are good at what we're doing in the show, but also like why we relate so much to the people watching the show, right? It's going to show like the bare truth of where we come from, who we are. Also, it shines a light on a few of the leaders that we met in these communities that we didn't get a chance to actually showcase in the episodes, where, there are some leaders in these communities that are really the only thing that kept queer culture alive there, and that are leading the people even after we leave, that are going to get showcased as well. That's really important. And I think it's also important for us with a show that means that as emotional and like impactful as it is to people right now, which we're thankful for, during this time, we had to come up with something to showcase how we're getting through the pandemic, even though we were halted too. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just a great way for us to kind of show people, you know what, we're getting through it together. I mean, Bob says something where he talks about, people and a shared experience, and how this is like such a powerful shared experience, and it really rings true.
What do you hope viewers, straight and queer, LGBTQ, cis, like, what do you hope viewers take away from the show?
What I really want is I want people to feel a sense of connection in the world that's existing today, especially where we're so lacking in human connection. But I want everyone to come out of this saying, wow, I'm not different than anybody else. I'm my own unique person, but at the same time, I have these same feelings, they're expressed in different ways, but I'm seeing myself in these people, or aspects of myself in all of these people. And that at the end of the day, if you can give yourself a little bit more love and then extend it out into the world, that's really what our message is.
And I think the what we'd like to express with the show is to love yourself, love your flaws, celebrate them. Another thing is to connect with people you would normally sort of be slightly more judgmental, is to be a little bit more open-minded about the people that exist, outside of the cities, and even for people from smaller communities to not be so judgmental about the people in large cities. I think this is very much a show about coming together and learning from each other, but learning about each other. And I'm hoping we get the opportunity to go to as many cities as possible to sort of shine that light in a special way and to show that there is a beautiful side to each other if we just choose to see it and take the time to sit down and listen to each other.
How can we as fans support drag queens, support the drag community? Because I know there's a lot of people who like, you know, out of work because bars are closing and it's hard to get work, you know. So how can we as fans support the drag community and support drag queens?
Huge ways. There are huge ways. Let me jump in this real quickly because I want to tell you, not only through virtual shows, and some of us are participating in different efforts in order to help fundraise for different organizations that are helping specifically to our drag community. But first is the knowledge of it, Taylor. It's knowing that the drag community has been one of the hardest hit communities during this pandemic because due to the shutdown of nightlife from COVID-19, queens who depend on performing in nightclubs, bars, bingos, large public gatherings are no longer able to collect wages. They're longer able to collect tips. They're no longer able to do what keeps them lively out in a public space. So they've had to be creative, which, you know, everybody knows that queens are some of the most resourceful people out there. And so these queens are out there doing virtual shows. They're coming up with creative ideas to entertain. So the way that people can definitely support those queens is by seeking them out. It's Pride season, okay? If you Pride is about community. Go out there and keep holding up our community. Find them online, support their shows, Cash App, Venmo, different ways that you can support them financially. And then we have a website called we'rehereresources.com, which also gives you great ways in which that you can continue to support drag as well through different organizations.
Wow. Yeah, I need to check that out.
Check it out.
Yeah, I will after this. Do you have anything to add, Eureka or Bob?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways. Like, you know, if you go on to any of our social media pages, and you'll start finding other drag queens. You click on those drag queens, and they all have drag queen friends. You know, Digital Drag Fest is the largest online platform for these queens to be doing these shows. Queens are some of my favorite queens. Everywhere from Peppermint, and not just queens, but also all queer performers. Landon Cider. Lots of different drag performers are doing shows on these digital platforms, and it's a great way to spend your evening. People are doing them on their Instagram. People are doing them on all these platforms. Like, the girls need their coins because, you know, the rent is too damn high, and people still have to pay their rent during this time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's pretty easy to find the resources if you just maybe, like I said, it may be a web, click on one person, then the next person, the next person, the next person. You'll see the drag community is vast.
Yeah.
We're the biggest mafia in the world.
And we need to eat. And these girls need to eat. Hallelujah.
You know, randomly, side note, financially for sure. I mean, I think the girls, the boys, everything in between definitely could use some love financially. But, you know, me personally, and I think a lot of entertainers that I'm talking to, my sisters and brothers that are calling me, you know, send some love to your entertainer friends. Like, you don't realize until you're told that you're not allowed to perform on stage anymore for a while how important it is, and how much you miss it and how much you need it. It's such therapy for entertainers. You know what I mean? I know for me, it's really an emotional escape for me a lot. So I have had to find other avenues to get out some of that tension that I get out when I perform by dancing or doing these high energy numbers or these emotional ballads or these moments of performance that is really therapy to me, you know, to keep myself in a good, positive working condition. So I think a lot of entertainers are also being affected by that. So if you can't afford it financially, just send love to these people. You know what I mean? Remind them that you're thinking about them and that you miss them performing too, just as much as they miss performing.
Yeah, that's a great. I don't have that much money, but I just have been sending like $5 here and there when I can. Just trying.
Every dollar counts.
Yeah, especially as much since
Real tea. I paid off my student loans before I was on Drag Race, and I paid it off in literally in $1 bills. And it was every single one was $1 that was handed to me by a person at a nightclub. So if you think your $5, your $1 gonna help it, Mary, that's not true. That is not true.
Yeah, that's powerful. Have we heard anything about a season 2 yet, or?
We're hoping, and you'll be the first to know. As fact, we'll probably shout it so loud that you'll hear it wherever you are in West Hollywood.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me, all three of you. I really appreciate your time. I love the show. I can't wait for the finale next week. And yeah, stay safe out there, y'all. Black Lives Matter. Yes.
Hallelujah.
I appreciate
Been
your
done, been mattered.
Been done, did done, had hers has mattered.
Thank you, Boo.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to me, y'all. I appreciate your time.
Yes,
Yes, no, thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I love the show. I can't wait. Can't wait. Season 2, for sure. It's coming. I feel it.
Okay, good.
Good. Yay.